Galvanized status mods are extremely confusing. But why? Aren't they really straightforward? I mean, they just add a bit of status chance, and then on kill you get extra damage against enemies affected by status. Well, the confusing part isn't necessarily what the mods do, but rather how they do it. Firstly, we have the mod description, which can be interpreted in two different ways. You can either see it as getting up to 80% bonus damage on enemies that have 2 or more status effects on them, which is how I thought it worked for quite a while, or, and this is how it actually works, you get up to 80% bonus damage for every status effect affecting the enemy, as long as you stack it up by getting kills with the weapon equipped with the mod. So that can be pretty confusing, but there's more, because sometimes the bonus damage you get from these mods is additive, and sometimes it's multiplicative. Sometimes it's even both, because why not, I guess. On most weapons it's additive and it's considered generic damage, so it will be added on top of the damage multiplier you get from mods like Serration, Hornet Strike, Point Blank, or even the Acolyte Arcanes. If it's additive and we take a weapon that does 100 damage and mod it with Serration and Galvanized Aptitude and shoot it against an enemy that has 1 status proc on them, the calculation is gonna look like this and the weapon will end up doing 345 damage. But if we do the exact same thing on a weapon where it happens to be multiplicative, the calculation will instead look like this and the weapon will end up doing 477 damage. That, even with a single status proc on the enemy, is a noticeable difference. This is why people will often stress that Galvanized Aptitude or Galvanized Shot is multiplicative in a build video, because they're doing a build video for a weapon where it happens to be multiplicative and you get much more from it. Now, how do you know whether it's going to be multiplicative or additive without testing every single weapon yourself? Well, you rely on other people to test them for you, so you go to the Condition Overload Mechanics page on Wikipedia and you scroll down to the list of weapons that people made. However, this only lists weapons where it's multiplicative or there is some sort of a clash. Like on the Mutilacernas, for example, where for some reason on uncharged shots it will be multiplicative, but if you charge it all the way, it will become additive. So if the weapon is not on the list, it's additive and it's not gonna be quite as good. But it's still not gonna be useless, and that's something I wanna stress here, because while it might not be as good on some weapons than it is on others, it's not useless. Because it's actually very nice for builds that don't run base damage mods like Serration or Hornet Strike and instead get all of their base damage from an Acolyte Arcane. Because if you've used one of these builds, you know they have a pretty serious flaw. You need to get kills to get base damage, but it's difficult to get kills without base damage. That's where these mods really shine, regardless of whether they're gonna be multiplicative or additive. And we're still not done with the confusion, because these mods also only work on some things. They don't work on everything. It's a bit funky in the way it works, but in general AoE damage does not get the benefit of Galvanized status mods. But the way it decides what's AoE and what's not is a bit weird. Like, for example, the projectiles from Arca Plasmor are considered projectiles, not AoE damage, so they do get the benefit of Galvanized status mods. It also works on chaining weapons, so something like the Amprex will get the benefit on every single target it chains to, whereas something like the Glaxian Vandal, which does area of effect damage around its primary target, only gets the benefit on the primary target and not on the targets hit by the AoE. It also works on electricity and gas procs, even though they do area of effect damage, but they originate from a single target. And then there are a few things where it just doesn't work and nobody is really sure why. Those are the Balefire Charger, the Stug, the Ferox series Embedded Oldfire, the Azima Turret, the Sonic Ore, and the Artemis Bow. So if you want to use one of these mods and you're not quite sure whether or not they will actually work on your weapon, make sure you check out the wiki. Alright? This is why these are the most confusing mods in the game, because not only can you interpret the description in two different ways, which are wildly different, and sometimes the damage is additive and sometimes multiplicative, so it will do way more damage on some weapons for no obvious reason, but they also just straight up don't work on a lot of weapons that you can happily equip them onto. But they are very strong if used correctly. Like, if you go overboard and you get every single status effect on the enemy, you're gonna get 1280% damage at 2 stacks. And that, my dudes and dudettes, is a lot of damage. Even though you're realistically not gonna get it, because good luck getting every single status effect on the same enemy. Because we have 3 physical status effects, 10 elemental ones, then there is Void, then we also have Lifted and Knockdown, which are mutually exclusive. You can't knock down a lifted enemy, but they both count as a status effect for condition overload-like effects. And finally there is Microwave, which is a hidden status effect that's only present on the new cores. It's what causes the enemy's body parts to inflate when you hit them. Microwave has infinite duration and it does count as a status effect. So yeah, good luck getting all of those on the same dude. So in conclusion, while the Galvanized status mods are fairly confusing, they're also very good and a lot of weapons will benefit from having them. The reason I made this video is because I want you to understand why these mods are good, because if you understand why something is good, you can utilize it properly. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching, I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful, and if you have anything else you would like to add to this, feel free to leave a comment down below. Then I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, and if you would like to become a channel member as well, by the way, you can check out the memberships and stuff down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.